Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. How is everybody doing? I see we got a couple of eyeballs. People are still streaming in. I guess that's a pun. Sorry for the pun. I really didn't mean it. Let me get our overlay sorted out here. Turn it into a proper overlay. Hey, the clean. Hey, our burring. I oddly have two characters today. For some reason, like not Godot, YouTube comments didn't get synced over into Restream chat. And so I was like, that's weird. So I decided to reply to them directly on YouTube in case that might be better. I don't know. There was someone was asking about the GGPO module for Godot. Anyway, let me just move this overlay so it's really an overlay. Instead of trying to talk and do it at the same time, which always ends in disaster. Don't try to talk and think at the same time, at least if you're me. Okay. And this button. All right. So let me know if the characters are there where they should be. Let me check out the characters a little bit. I like my Snowpet Games character. That dude looks like a blacksmith. Looks like he's getting some work done. My other one, he looks kind of posh, kind of fancy. The long hair and the shield. Ricardo with that staff. That's a cool magic staff going. The clean looks like a gladiator, you know, going out to fight in the Colosseum. We got some good ones today. Remember, if you write something in the chat on any of the services, you will get a character on the stream overlay. But if you want your words to appear in a little chat bubble, you have to do it on Discord. The link to join the Discord is down below. The stream overlay is something we created in Godot on stream a whole bunch of weeks ago now. Yeah. So, how are you doing, folks? How are things going? This has been like a really chaotic week for me. I feel like, I don't know, it just flew by. But let me know how you guys are doing, what projects you're working on, how those are going. And while you are gathering your thoughts and typing that, I'm going to give a quick overview of the project in case anyone here has not been on previous streams. So we are working on one of my games, which is available on Steam, Retro Tank Party. It is an online multiplayer, 2 to 4 player, top-down tank thing where you shoot your friends. That should have gone full screen. There we go. And it is implemented using relatively naive networking. It's basically just sending the messages as fast as it can, and when the messages get to the different clients, it does the thing. So the synchronization is relatively loose. And we have been working for the last several months on converting it to a different network synchronization technique called rollback and prediction, which is mainly used in competitive online fighting games. Popularized by the GGPO library, if you've ever heard of that. That is basically what we are implementing. And we have gotten really far. We ended up creating our whole own deterministic physics engine because everything needs to be deterministic for rollback and prediction network synchronization to work. We have, you know, all of the basic pieces in Godot to implement the synchronization, working on a little asset for the Godot asset library that I'll publish in a few weeks. And yeah, last week we had a really great stream. We solved random number generation in rollback and prediction, and it was really cool because we had a plan, we laid it out, we tried it, and it worked. And it was also a really great stream in the sense that there was a lot of interaction and you guys helping me with things and some ideas going back and forth. And this week, we are going to try to solve another really difficult, well, I don't know, really difficult, but another challenge associated with rollback and prediction, and that is sound effects, which I'll dig into the challenges with that in a moment. Let me see what folks are saying. So the clean is working on a backend for visuals, particles, and model animations. So the clean, I assume that's still your VR lightsaber thing that you're working on. But cool. Particles, you need particles. I love particles. I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. If anyone else has anything else to share, please do. Self-promotion, 100% allowed on the stream, so long as it's a game that you're making. I guess it doesn't even have to be a game with Godot necessarily, but you know, that would be preferred. Ricardo is working on a small top-down 2D game about a frog jumping on lily pads. Cool. So, is it what's the challenge? What is the frog being challenged to do with these lily pads? Is it just like like platformer trying to make the lily pads, or is there some sort of enemy coming at us? Like what's our frog's what challenges does our frog face? Let me get a new little canvas up here for us to talk through sound effect issues here. All right, well, while Ricardo is possibly elaborating about this frog's day-to-day life, I want to talk a bit about the problems that are facing us with sound effects. So, in rollback and prediction, basically the way this works is, you know, some frames are happening, and we're getting the input from the other players. We'll just mark these as like frame 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not going to get their input immediately. So let's say we have rendered everything up to frame 4 on our local client. We've predicted what the other clients are doing on these other frames. Finally, we get the information from the other clients for what they were doing on frame 2. That means we roll back the game simulation to frame 2. We inject the new input, right? New, I don't know, we'll write IO, even though there really isn't any O. New IO. And then we resimulate the game forward again back to the 4th frame. And all of these rollbacks and roll forwards is not seen by the player. It happens within the span of a single render frame. But that is how we are ensuring correctness, that our players are basically experiencing the same rules on all of the different clients, even if we aren't necessarily seeing all of the same things at the same time, because there's different network latencies and whatnot. But compared to, you know, the naive current form of network synchronization, we won't have things necessarily play out differently, where like I see a bullet hit your tank, and on your screen, the bullet doesn't hit your tank, so it doesn't count as a hit. Like, that's something that can happen in the current version of the game. With this new system, it cannot. The clean, objective, survive. I assume he's referring to what Ricardo's game is doing. Yeah, I guess that is the main objective of a frog in real life, too. Don't die. Hey, Samuel Harrison! Samuel Harrison is working on a mobile game called the Dystopia app. The visuals look really cool. Let me interrupt the overlay for a second to just like bring that up. I have to go over to chat over here. And I have to move really fast. No, it opened on the wrong screen. Okay. Let me move this over to the correct screen. Ah! Come on. I think that worked. Streaming, otherwise known as watch me use a computer badly. TV. The Dystopia app. Changing the world? Sigh. A very lofty dream. It's a feat few men ever really achieve. Cool. Okay, so it is like a chapter-based thing? So is this like an interactive comic kind of thing? Or maybe more passive, where you're just kind of like watching the comic? Anyway, it seems cool. I like the vibe it's got going. Ooh, come on. Let's scroll all the way over here. Oh, no, not an interactive comic kind of thing. I see there's movement. You're moving around in the world. So maybe I'm skimming, so I saw a thing about a comic, maybe based on a comic. I like, oh, cool. So very comic-esque drawn scenes there. Oh, what is the deal with Google Play making me like click and have it just slowly scroll across? Just slide the whole image, Google. Cool. I'll definitely have to check that out later. Interactive comic with a top-down RPG. Very cool. All right, let me get the overlay going again. So, yeah, this is basically what's happening in rollback and prediction, and sound effects pose some interesting problems. So, first of all, let's say we predicted that on frame 2, there was some event that caused a sound, like your bullet hit a box, or I don't know, something. There was a sound here. We'll make a little speaker. Ah, Maybe we won't make a little speaker. That's too much drawing for me. So sound effect happened here. Then we get to frame 4, we roll back, and we get some new information. That means when we roll forward again, this sound actually didn't happen. The event that caused that sound to happen was mispredicted. We predicted incorrectly. So what do we do? Do we keep letting the sound play, or do we cut off the sound? So maybe 2 frames of the sound have played. We've realized, oops, that thing didn't really happen. Do we stop the sound? That's a question. That's an open design question. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. Another challenge. So let's say we've played through the frames 1, 2, 3, 4, and some other client did something on frame 2. Oh my God. Just drag it. Just drag it. Drawing application, you're ruining my explanation. Okay. Okay, so we've simulated forward. Something happens on different clients on frame 2 that triggers a sound. We've finally got the information that that event has happened. We roll back. We initiate the sound. Then we roll back to frame 4. The visuals associated with whatever that event was, let's say the tank fired its gun, will be advanced by 4 frames. So we'll see the bullet will move 4 frames worth out immediately. We won't see frames 2 and 3. We won't see the animation there, but it will have happened, right? We'll start a little bit later in the animation. Do we do the same thing with the sound? Do we start the sound at the beginning of the sound, even though we're seeing a later part of the animation? Or do we fast forward the sound 2 frames like we did with the animation? Or more basic thing, more fundamental thing, just playing the same sound more than once. Why isn't this dragging? Okay, okay, that's fine. So let's say we're at frame 4, we get new information about frame 2, we roll back, and then as we're rolling forward, we play this same sound on frame 3 again. So we played the sound when frame 3 really happened. Then during this rollback, we do it again, and so essentially the sound will get played both on frame 3 and... Whoa, okay. I did not want to copy and paste my stream key. Luckily, that's totally invalid now. I need to either learn this drawing app better or get a better drawing app. So I was trying to copy and paste this. Can I copy and paste you? Duplicate you. Okay. Jeez. Sorry, guys. So then we end up playing the same sound on frame 3 and frame 4, even though the event only happened once. So how do we prevent that double playing? And then there's also a very Godot-specific problem that we'll have to tackle, which is normally sounds are attached to the objects making the sound, right? So an explosion node, an explosion scene, would have the audio stream player node attached to it with the explosion sound attached to it, right? So in the process of doing rollback and rolling forward, we spawn and despawn like a ton of objects, right? So let's say an explosion occurred on frame 3. We then are on frame 4. We get new information about frame 2, so we roll back to frame 2. In the process of rolling back to frame 2, any objects that were spawned on frame 3 will be despawned, right? And then when we play forward again, it will be respawned. So this sound effect, which we may or may not want to just keep playing continuously, will actually have had its node destroyed and recreated during the course of a rollback. And that's a Godot-specific problem because I think most game engines don't do this kind of thing where you're attaching like a sound object to the thing that's making the sound. Most will have like a sort of separate sound manager component or singleton or whatever that is responsible for playing sounds. So you don't have to worry about this problem of the thing being despawned, but you do still have to worry about the problem we were talking about, a moment ago with this sound being played twice, right? Because you will get the notification to play the sound 2 times. First when it really happens, and then again during the rollback. Hey, Zombie Hunter, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. You actually got a kind of zombie-looking character in the overlay. So I think as a zombie hunter, you may have gotten bit. I think you got bit. and you turned into a zombie. I'm sorry. Your career of zombie hunting is over. You are now brains hunting the rest of us. So I guess we have to look out. We got to stay away from you. All right. So I kind of have a vague idea of how I want to solve this problem. Essentially, step one, we're going to have to make some kind of sound manager to manage our sounds because we can't have it attached to object lifetime. That's just too problematic. And I think the biggest problem for us is the double playing of sounds. No matter what, we don't want a single explosion to play 2 explosion sounds, or even more than that, right? Because if you're playing with 4 players, you could be on frame 4 and then get information about frame 2 from one player. Okay, I've rolled back and done that. And then you could be on frame 5 and like, oh, now I got information about frame 2 from a different player, and then I roll back again. You could hear the same sound as many times as there are players, and possibly more. Can you hear it more? Yeah, I guess so, because it depends on how far ahead you are of the other players. Like, they may only give you like a little bit of input that's before the sound, and as long as they keep giving you input that's before the sound, and you're currently after the sound, you'll just keep replaying it, right? So, sound manager, a strategy for eliminating duplicate sounds, and those 2 problems we talked about first, the realizing the sound shouldn't have played, and should we cut it off or not? And starting a sound later than the event that it occurred, should we advance it forward? I'm saying we should just, for now at least, completely punt on those problems. We are not going to try to cut off sounds that shouldn't have happened or advance sounds forward from their beginning yet. What I want to do is I want to try it without that and see how it feels. Because it's possible that those are not a big deal, or not a big deal for most cases. Like, I could imagine a world where we try this, and for like 90% of the sounds, like, it doesn't matter, it's fine, like, we don't need to cut it off. But then for maybe like 1 or 2 specific sounds, it becomes really important because it messes up like the experience of gameplay. And one idea I had in mind for a type of sound like that is in the football mode of the game. If you get a goal, there's like this horn that plays. I don't know how many people have ever even seen the football mode because it's not released. It's not part of the release game. It's not fun. So it got pulled at the last minute. I'm hoping to do some more design work on it and make it actually be fun. But that is why it is not present in the live version of the game. Let me just finish typing this so I can show you the football mode really quick. So there's this really loud horn that happens when... Please hold. I think that's my password. Is that my password? Typing passwords on stream. Really amazing streaming video here. So I had just tried, okay, the reason it doesn't remember my password is because I was just testing on the live server, and I have a different password for the live server and my test server, and I always forget which one is which. And like the saving password thing is a nice feature, and I'm glad that I have it. But there we go. It screws me up because it means I type my password so rarely that I never remember what it is. All right, so let's go check out the football mode. So here we go. Red team, blue team. So the way this works is you have this football. You can throw it. And if you get across here, hopefully you guys can hear that horn. So imagine if your client thought there was a point scored, right? And so you hear the horn, like, yeah! And then the rollback comes, and it turns out no point was scored because maybe you got shot right before you crossed the into the goal area. Because the way this works, at least in the current version, this will probably change in some number of ways as we try to make it fun, but you get shot and you lose the ball. The ball falls out of your hands. So imagine like it does a rollback and the ball gets knocked out of your hands just before you go across. But on your client, it's blowing the horn and it's launching the fireworks and you're thinking, yeah, I won. But everyone else is like, no, you totally didn't win. Like you didn't score. So that might be a sound that we would want to cut off, right? Like we predicted a point was scored, but then 2 frames later, oops, there wasn't actually a point scored. So maybe we should stop that sound. But I don't know. Like we'll have to see. We'll have to really play test and really find out, which sounds that matters for and which it doesn't. And maybe it doesn't matter for any, right? So let's not build a thing we don't know if we need. Ship horn. Yeah, I love that horn sound, by the way. I think I got it off of Open Game Art. I get a lot of dumb little sound effects there. So let's get started on this. I'm just going to close this. I want less things open that can possibly screw up my stream. And I don't trust Google Play Store doing weird JavaScripty things in the background. All right, so in our add-ons folder, we have our network sync rollback add-on, which this is what's going to be in the asset that's going to go into the asset library in a couple of weeks once we have it sufficiently working well in this game. And we have something that's sort of similar to the sound manager currently. We have this spawn manager, which is responsible for spawning and despawning objects in like a rollback safe way. So if you ask the spawn manager to spawn an object, it creates like this spawn record, and it knows if you roll back before that object was spawned, it will despawn it. And if you roll if you have the opposite problem where an object was destroyed, but now we've rolled back, so we need to create it again, it will spawn it again. So I'm thinking we'll do a similar thing. We'll make a little sound manager node that will go in this folder, and we have the spawn manager attached to our sync manager. The sync manager is kind of like our global singleton that manages everything related to rollback. And the spawn manager is attached, where does it get created? Probably in ready. Yeah, so here we go. The spawn manager gets created and attached to the sync manager singleton. So I think we're going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to make a sound manager, we're going to attach it to the sync manager, and then we'll add like a little convenience function. Like in the sync manager, we have this spawn method, which just passes it off to the spawn manager. And that kind of allows us to make a relatively complicated thing, the sound manager, but have all of its logic not be mixed in with all of this fancy netcode stuff. We don't want the sound code to be mixed in with the netcode. The clean. Our brain is used to hear sounds after we see it. Delaying remote sounds may be helpful and not very disturbing for players. Yeah, so yeah, that might actually play out. I think that's so. Which problem does that eliminate? That's if that's like not starting something late, right? So we would have the option of potentially fast forwarding a sound to a little later, but maybe our brains will be cool with that because we'll have seen the thing and then heard the sound, and it doesn't really correlate that maybe they're not totally synced up or something like that. So yeah, the human brain, all of this, like really, like everything in game design and in netcode in particular is all like smoke and mirrors. It's all a magic trick, right? So it doesn't really matter that much how fully accurate something is, like down to the frame level or whatever, because it's never going to be fully accurate, right? We have to deal with latencies. Data has to travel from here to there. The data isn't moving speed of light. So our real challenge isn't how perfect and how close can we get these simulations. It's how perfectly can we trick the humans that are playing them to make them feel like everything is synchronized, to make them feel like this is a good experience and they're having fun, right? Even if it's a little bit off, so long as people are having fun and it feels like it's on, then we've succeeded. So let's create our new script. We'll call it Sound Manager. It is a node. Where did you put it, Godot? There it is. It's really weird, like, and maybe I should open a bug report about this, but like, look at how all the S things are down here, and I just created an S thing, Sound Manager, and it's up here. And that throws me off every time I create a new file, and like the alphabeticalness just doesn't happen. So yeah, someone, maybe me, should open a bug report about that. Anyway, so what does this thing need to do? It is going to be creating different audio stream player nodes. And I guess it can just make them as children of itself, so we don't necessarily need to have a complicated node hierarchy going here. We just need to keep track of the sounds that are playing so that we can clean them up afterwards. We might not even need to have any like special local variables for that. We'll see. We'll start. Usually I start with the data, but let's start with the methods, not def. Func. So we'll need to do like play sound, and I'm kind of two minds of what we should pass here. I like that in Godot you make the individual audio stream player node and then like can configure it on this little node, and you can hit the play checkbox and like test it out and stuff all from the editor. I don't like the idea of it all being in code because I'm losing like that fun little editor stuff. But let's just say you pass in the actual resource that's going to get played, and this manager is going to create the node for us and everything. That means I have to remember what the name of the audio stream resource is. Let's bring up the Godot docs just in case, but I'll just try typing and see if autocomplete can help us. Audio stream. Okay, we'll say sound audio stream generator plugin. Orbis. Okay. We'll look in the docs. What we'll look at is we'll look at the audio stream player node, and we'll look at what that properties type is. Stream, audio stream. And I'm assuming then the aug and the different ones descend from it. Okay, cool. So we want to take an audio stream resource, and we want to take the volume, because not all sounds we want to be played at the same level. What are some other properties we need to set on the audio stream player, that is? We'll need to control which bus it goes to. I'm thinking we can have like a default. So we'll do like default bus. And I guess we'll default that to master, because I think that's the one that's always created. But in this game, like in most games, see, I have all these different buses for sound, music, and then I have these two extra buses for the user configured sound and music, so I can have kind of like my own volume, and they'll have a different thing that gets tweaked in the settings. So when we're using this in our game, we'll probably change default bus to be sound. We'll need to have the ability to maybe change that for each individual sound. Pitch scale, is that something that people mess with on audio effects sometimes? I guess. Oh, and maybe we'll name the volume variable volume dB so that it's clear that it's in decibels. Decibels are such a weird unit. Does anyone have like a good trick for thinking in decibels? It's so weird because it's like an exponential curve, or maybe it's a quadratic curve. I'm not sure. Like, but it's a curve that decibels come on. It's not like 2 is twice as loud as 1. It's like, I don't know, more than that. All right, and pitch scale we'll take. Volume dB bus and pitch scale, and I think that was a floating point value. Yes. And I guess let's return the node that gets created. I'm saying node rather than audio stream because we're gonna have to deal with audio stream players, which are direct descendants of node, and then audio stream player 2D, which is for positional audio, which RetroTank Party actually uses. It uses positional audio for everything so that you actually hear the explosions and tank movements and all of that stuff coming from the direction that they are being generated. So we don't know which one we're going to return, but we will return something. So, or no, we could have two different things. We could have play sound and play like positional sound. So maybe play sound will return an audio stream player, and we'll have a different method for returning the 2D one. Let's try that for now. Okay, so node, we'll create our audio stream player, and we'll return it right away. We need to configure some stuff. So stream is our sound. Volume dB is volume dB. We need some value here to be like null. I'll just make it be empty string for now. We need to be able to distinguish between the player, or not the player, the developer didn't pass anything, and so we want to take the default versus, you know, I couldn't have this just be master. Anyway, we'll start with that for now, and I believe pitch scale, its normal default is 1. Pitch scale 1, okay. Pitch scale. And we need to add this node to ourselves, add child. And we need to start playing. Okay, so this will spawn a audio stream player. It will play. It will exist forever. That's not cool. We need to destroy this. We need to clean up after ourselves. So what is that signal called? We'll connect to finished. We'll say on audio finished. We'll pass in the actual node as an argument. And we'll implement this on audio finished method to take care of that. Let me see if there's any arguments for the finished signal. Nope. So you don't need to worry about that. The only one will be our node. And we can remove child and queue free. Okay, so now calling this method will create our node, add it, and when it's done playing, delete it. That doesn't solve any of our rollback problems, at least not yet. And the first problem we want to address, like I said earlier, is playing the same sound more than once, which is really, I mean, it might not be easy for you guys to hear over the stream, but I can totally hear it when I'm testing out the game, even just in like practice mode. Yeah, can you guys hear that? It goes yeah, and so the reason it's doing it so many times, actually, because you'd expect there'd be no rollbacks in practice mode, is we have this debug setting where, well, I'm not going to actually try and find it. You guys can just trust me, right? There's a debug setting where we tell it to every frame, roll back, and then roll forward 5 frames so that we can test out our code and make sure that it works in the case of a rollback. Otherwise, it's really easy to write game logic that's not rollback safe. But if you're always developing with this debug setting turned on, you can be reasonably sure that in the case of a real rollback, everything will be fine. So when you shoot it, you hear like the foom, 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 foom 5 times, and then the explosion happens 5 times. So how are we going to prevent that from happening? The idea that I had and started actually implementing at some point, but it just like wasn't working, so I threw it out, was to pass in the node path of the object that's trying to play it, and then making it so that you can't have multiple things with the same node path. Which that could work, assuming we figure out why it wasn't working for me before, figure out whatever bug was preventing that. Oh, the clean says, yeah, we can hear it. Good, good, we're all on the same page. So then what would that be? We'd pass in some sort of like name argument or like identifier, an identifier string. And what are we going to do with this identifier string? So we could maybe just make it be the name of the node, but that's not foolproof actually, because what if the identifier is something that isn't safe in the name of a node, and Godot likes to rename the names of your nodes so there's no clashes, and that could cause some weird behavior. So maybe we do need to keep track of the sounds. We'll make a little internal dictionary. I'll do it this way. To keep track of all of our sound nodes. And we'll start off by saying if we have this sound already, then we will simply return the one we already have and carry on. And that means we also need to add it. Do that right before we return. So theoretically, assuming we can come up with a good identifier that isn't going to like be too weird with the constant despawning and respawning of objects, it should prevent a thing from playing twice. So let's get to where we can test this. And to do that, we need to, I guess, initialize it. We need to create our sound manager as part of the sync manager. As we talked about earlier, let's just find the spawn manager. We'll put it next to the spawn manager. Spawn manager. And we'll basically do everything the spawn manager is doing. Oh, right, we need to load it. We'll load our sound manager script. So that we can instantiate it down here. And the reason I'm having these objects be attached to the sync manager singleton rather than creating their own singletons is just like this endless proliferation of singletons that seems to happen in my projects. I want to have fewer singletons. Why are you yelling at me? That looks good. Like even looking in this project where I've started to try and really tap down on the singletons, there's that many. There's all those singletons. All right, so then we need a convenience method to call our sound manager, which I suppose could like return the sound manager. That's another way of going about this, but I kind of like the idea of making it so that the developer doesn't need to know anything about the existence of the sound manager. So I have a play sound here. Actually, we'll just copy and paste. We'll copy and paste from the signature there. And we will return from the real function. Oh, I didn't do anything with the default bus thing. Let me go back there. Okay, so we need to do something with bus. So we'll say node bus equals bus if bus does not equal empty string else default bus. There. And how are we going to set this default bus? Because our game is going to want to tell it that the default bus is not in fact master. Maybe exposing the sound manager is a good idea. I was just saying we weren't going to do that, but that would solve the problem for us, right? If you could just access the sound manager object directly. API design. I'm just going to make a little method for it. Set default sound bus. And we'll do bus string. I think it takes a string, right? Bus string. Yep. Okay, we don't have to find some object for that or something. Okay, so sound manager bus equals bus. All right, and because we already know that we want to configure that, let's do it before we forget. I believe I have a special singleton that configures all of our game-specific network stuff. And yeah, let's just put in here. Sync manager set default sound bus, yeah. And it is called sound or sounds? It is called sound, okay. Now, we need to start using this thing. We were listening previously to the example of the tank shooting sound and the explosion sound, so we'll start there. We'll start with the tank shooting, so let's get to the tank scene. And I think it's somewhere in here that triggers the sound. Yeah, so we have shoot sound right here. It has a script attached to it. What does the script do? Oh, okay. So this is using positional audio stuff, and I had to make my own like custom positional audio thing because this PR had not been merged yet. I think it's been merged now. Let's go look this up, guys. This is exciting. There was like a major issue with how positional audio worked in Godot, and it's merged. So I think, has this been, I think this might be going to 3.4. cherry pick 3.4. Yeah, cool. So as soon as Godot 3.4 comes out, we will no longer need this little custom thing that I made to work around the issues with Godot's positional audio. So if you're curious about what the issue is, you have these audio stream player 2D nodes, which will have the audio come from a particular direction, but the place where the listener is, where Godot is saying like, I'm listening from this point, so that I will now get the direction to the place that it's coming from, is always the center of the current camera, which is not always right, especially in this game. The tank can be like way over at the top edge or this edge or whatever, so that sounds should not be relative to the center. They should be relative to the position of the tank. And in 3D, there's this awesome listener 3D node that you put on the thing that you want to be listening. So you'd put it on, your player node, and then that's where the sounds would be relative to. There wasn't an equivalent thing in for 2D, and this PR added it. So I had to come up with a way to kind of like simulate it. It's not perfect, but yeah. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the sound manager we made and just ignore the existence of positional audio, and just pretend that this isn't a thing, and we'll figure out how we're going to integrate it back in a little bit. So where does tank play the shoot sound? Assuming I have a variable for it. Shoot sound, yes I do. And hook default shoot, okay. So this is where we play the shoot sound, and we're going to have to change up the way this works. So, number one, we will need to load the resource that is the shoot sound. So we'll say shoot sound stream, call them streams. We'll preload it, and can I drag it like off of this node? That'd be super sweet. Let's go script, and drag it from here. Huh. Only resources from file system can be dropped. Okay, I guess we can't. So I have to find where that is in the file system. Assets folder is at the top because it starts with an A. Sounds. What the heck sound is this? Can you tell me what it is? Am I gonna have to actually like look in the TSCN file to know? Okay, show in file system. Ooh, I should have noticed that before. Where are you showing me? Here we go. Bass drum. It is bass drum 003 wave. Load it up there. And now we'll get back to where we were, and we'll pass this to our sound manager to actually play the sound. So it'll be like sync manager, play sound, shoot sound stream. Let's grab the volume off of here. This had a volume dB of 10. Oh, wait, we have to give it an identifier first. Let me just put that there for a moment so I can think my way through the rest of this. Actually, this is all we should need, right? Because we're not messing with the pitch. We're not changing the bus. So now, what's the identifier that we would give here so that we can not play this sound twice? So in my previous attempt to do this, I was using the node path and then adding like shoot sound or something like that, right? Because we know the tank will have a unique node path for each of the tanks in the scene that won't change regardless of whether the tank's been despawned and respawned. The tanks, I think, are always named like their peer ID. So if you're peer ID 2, then your tank's name is 2. And then that will give the full path, ending, of course, in the /2. Fruity McNipples. I think it's 3. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Fruity McNipples. What is 3? I'm sorry, I didn't see your comment when it first came in. Maybe you're talking about the arguments to this thing? Identifier sound dB. That seems to line up. Where was I? I was in the tank. Let's get back to the tank. Don't get out of the tank. It's dangerous not in the tank. All right. Glad that bug is fixed. Was thinking of adding proximity chat. Ah, cool. Yeah, it is fantastic that that bug is fixed. I'm very excited for Godot 3.4 for that and many other reasons. All right, so this should maybe work. I guess like this could be problematic if we did want more than one like foomp sound to play at once. This basically means that we can only ever have one playing at once. Or if we wanted the case where like a new foomp sound would start each time, but we still don't want to have the rollback. So this isn't necessarily perfect, but let's give it a try. Ooh, what are you yelling at me about? Sound manager bus equals bus. Invalid set index on nil. Oh, okay, so this might not exist yet because it hasn't been created yet. So we'll do the usual trick that we do here where we yield on ready. So how does that trick look again? We'll yield, do we do the signal first? Man, do I always get confused here. Ready self, or is it self ready? Okay, self ready. So we'll, okay. And we'll do if sound manager equals null, yield self ready. All right, that should fix this problem. Oh, Ricardo, you caught it way before me. It is default bus. Thank you, Ricardo. The hive mind does it again. Yeah, okay. Oh, you know what? It worked the first time and then didn't work the second time, and I realized the reason is we're not cleaning up after the thing we added to the dictionary. So, let's get back to our sound manager. That's easy enough to fix. So when we clean up this, we also need to remove from sounds. So erase, in which case we'll also need the identifier. Okay, so identifier. Cool. Let's give this a shot and at least make sure that it is letting us do more than one foomp sound. Okay, so it does seem to be working. I was really worried that the sound would be so long that the second shot would like not get its sound played because the first one was still playing. That appears not to be the case. I don't know what to do in that case, though. Like, if we actually had that problem where the sound played so long, the second time it needed to happen, it was still playing. Like, we do need some kind of thing in our API to allow that to happen. And I kind of have an idea about how we could do that. We could optionally... I was going to say we could optionally have like a rename argument, but that's not going to work. Like, I'm not sure how to solve that yet. Let me see what's going on in chat. Maybe someone has solved it for me, which would be awesome. The clean. I feel like VR has a similar problem. Sounds are calculated from the camera, not the ears themselves. So you should be able to solve it in VR, though, the clean, because there is a listener 3D object, which I don't know why I didn't find it just itself. And then what am I on here? Sometimes the doc search is frustrating. I want to actually see the node documentation. It's just some things are coming up for listener. Oh, is it just called listener? Oh, right, because I'm thinking in Godot 4 terms, where all of the Godot 4 nodes that are 3D have 3D appended to them. So in Godot 3, it's just listener without any 3D attached to it. Oh, and it still has the note. There's no 2D equivalent. So I think for VR, you could create a listener node and position it slightly to the right of the camera, knowing that as far as Godot is concerned, the camera is by the left eye. Oh, interesting. The clean says it wasn't working last time he tried. Harboring the default boss on Sound Manager. Yep, thanks for catching that. So could you omit the node on the finished signal now? Oh, I probably could. I probably could. Because it could look it up from the dictionary. Should we do that is the question, though. I guess there's some theoretical problems that passing the node in helps with, like what if for some reason the node got erased from the sound array prematurely? That could be a thing. But yeah, I don't think that should happen. That shouldn't happen. We could just pass in the identifier. Say if, and I guess I have to get rid of this too. If sounds has identifier, then var node equals sounds identifier, and then the rest of this code will just work. Yeah. One less thing, I guess. All right. So I had another thought while I was typing that. What if part of the identifier was the frame number that we're playing this on? Because that could potentially solve the issue with if the audio is long, and so then by the time we need to play the second sound, the first sound's just kind of in the way. And I guess I don't know at what place that should be added, because like each individual sound will need to decide, do I only want one at all, or do I want only one this frame? And I think we should be safe using the frame number. Let me look at that. So on the sync manager, we have this current tick, because we chose to call the network frames ticks. Of course, out loud, I still say frame, sorry. But to sort of disambiguate between the idea of a render frame, which is actually like a frame, and a tick, which we could have multiple happen in a single frame, like if we're doing a rollback, for example. So anyway, the current tick should always be updated to the tick that we are running, even during rollback, I think. So let's just take a look at that. So here's the code where it does the rollback. So if at any point we set rollback ticks to some number greater than 0, it will enter this rollback section. And while it's doing the rollback ticks, so it's subtracting the rollback ticks from the current tick, and then as it's doing it, it's setting the current tick to what tick it's running. So during normal rollbacks, I think we should be good. And then the other question is during interpolation. So interpolation also kind of forcibly does a rollback. This is even more confusing. So it's actually running do tick again? It's been so long since I've worked on interpolation, I don't remember exactly how it works. Okay, so this is at the end. We need the beginning. I'm trying to see where things get kicked off. Okay, so this is the beginning of the physics process of Sync Manager, which is doing really all of the rollback logic. And it's saying if interpolation is enabled and current tick is greater than 1, we add a single rollback tick at least. And then we do all those rollbacks here. And then where does interpolation come up again? Oh, okay, so this do tick is not for interpolation. This do tick is the actual current frame. So this is the for real current tick the first time it's run, and then interpolation steps in and loads the state back one so that we can interpolate forward. Okay, so interpolation doesn't touch the current tick number at all. Okay, I think we can depend on the current tick being good for this purpose. So how would that look then? If we needed to do this fix for the tank, which we don't in this particular case, but I think that would look like shoot sound, and then we would add also something like that, right? Or no, I had the parentheses right the first time. And I think that should work. Let's try it for this tank for this sound just to see that it doesn't explode. Okay. I think that could work. Yeah, nothing's exploding. I think this idea works, like actually putting the tick in the identifier so that if we do have to play the sound multiple times, concurrently, but starting on different ticks, that should be fine. Now, this is a mess. This pile of code right here is a mess. Wouldn't it be nice to have a API to create these big nasty identifiers? I think the format is nice, putting a path to a node, a single identifier for the thing, and then a frame identifier. I don't know that we'll need identifiers like this for anything else besides sound, but we could add like a make identifier, get identifier, or something method to the sync manager that could be used here. So like get unique identifier. It's not necessarily unique though. Make identifier, and we could take a node, a name, and then we'll have like include tick bool, which we'll set to maybe false, something like this. What is Ricardo saying? Appending the current tick number in play sound method as sync manager? Yeah, yes, I would love for that to be part of the thing, that we have it be added in the sync manager. But I don't know that we want to do it always. I think there are times when we would just want a thing to be only playing once, like at all, regardless of if the second time was 2 ticks later. So we'd need an argument for it, and we already got a lot of arguments on this particular function. It's getting kind of out of hand, the number of arguments. So I'm trying to think of a way to have the API, but without really exploding the arguments of that one single method, which is why I'm kind of doing it like this. So where the heck was I? I was in sync manager. And we can do string, or actually no, we'll not return it right away. We'll build this up a little bit. So identifier. We'll always get the path, which I suppose could be null, in which case we just want the name, right? Because the path will be null if it's not in the tree. Okay. Do we want an identifier for a node that's not in the tree? Should we give some sort of warning? This is always the hard part with making APIs. You have to think through like all of the things that other developers might do that might be wrong. Yeah, we'll check for that. So if node, I think it's like is in tree, inside tree. If not is inside tree, add warning. identifiers for nodes that aren't in the tree are less likely to be unique. And we'll need to start with, maybe we'll just call this path. In this case, path will equal node name. And in all other cases, path will equal the node's path turned into a string, since those are actually objects usually. Then identifier is going to equal that plus the name, and then if include tick, we'll say identifier plus equals, I think we can do plus equals, plus a string of current tick. Something like that. What is it called? Push warning? Not add warning? Push warning? Push warning. Okay. So let's return to tank. And we will make this be way simpler. It'll be sync manager, make identifier self shoot sound. By the way, Twitch have a Godot engine tag. Yes, I think I'm using it. I should be using it. I went and configured it. Let's go see. Let's take a detour. Let's enter the vortex. I'll have to mute myself really quickly. Mute. Okay. What? I totally put it on there. I configured it earlier, I swear. Well, I didn't have it on there, I guess, but now I do. I'm very happy about that, actually, both as a streamer and as a viewer of streams. It's really like there's so many game dev streams, and almost all of them are like Unity or Unreal. It's really hard to find Godot streams by searching Twitch. It's easy enough to find them if like the creators post on Reddit or Facebook or the Discord or something, but yeah. Thanks for reminding me, because I guess I just added it now. I thought I already had added it. Okay, so this should just work as well as it was before. Cool. Let's make those explosion sounds also switch to this new method. And once we have those two things in place, then we'll figure out how we're going to deal with positional audio. We'll solve the positional audio problem. Okay, so explosions. Explosion scene, there we go. And so it has 3 different possible sounds. I just really like making these nodes in the editor. I'm not gonna like the usability of having to put these in code, especially because look at this. So miss has a dB of 0, hit has a dB of 2, and big has a dB of 2. Like, I'm gonna have to remember to pass that on the function call. I wonder if I should have like a dictionary or something that keeps those, but then I have to have some method that reads from the dictionary. I don't want to copy and paste that method everywhere. I don't know. I guess I'll deal with it for now, and maybe an idea for how to do this in a more developer-friendly way will come to me later, unless anyone on stream has any good ideas. So we will, I guess, make constants for each of those resources. So miss sound equals preload. What sound is that? Show in file system. Snare 001. and hit sound. Explosion 3004. Big sound. Explosion 2007. Okay. So those are all the sounds. And here we're going to do sync manager. Oh, we can probably use the same identifier for all of them. That's kind of nice. So save our sound ID, so I don't have to keep typing identifier. Sync manager, make identifier self. Is self an okay identifier? I guess it depends on what the path to these explosions is. Will the path to the explosions be consistent? Or, like, okay, so I'm thinking about this case where an explosion is spawned, you go so many frames, then you roll back to before it was spawned, so it'll be despawned. Now, when it's respawned again, will it have the same node path? And if so, the node path will work well, and if not, it won't help at all. So we'll try it. We'll try it and we'll see what happens. And I am... Oh, you know what? On that tank one, I think I had intended to pass true to the identifier to add the current tick. I wonder if that should be the default. Should it be the default to include the current tick? I think probably. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think odds are it's more likely that you want to include the current tick than the other way around. I guess we'll find out. We'll find out as we use it which one ends up being more useful. But my gut feeling right now is that more often than not, you want to include the current tick. For explosion, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to. But I don't think it'll do any harm if you do. So let's get back to explosion. Jump this way, jump that way. That should get me back there. Okay. So this will be the path to the current explosion, and then sound is the identifier. We'll find out if that's sufficient. So sound D. This is the miss sound, and the volume is 1. You know, I wonder if 1 should also be a default, because I think most of the time, if you are creating the sounds yourself, you would, you know, set the levels on them, or the sound person would set the levels on them before putting them in the game. So volume dB will default to 0.1. I'll go do that on the sound manager too, just to keep everything consistent here. And back to the explosion. Okay, and which one was it that had to be dB level? Wait, why is the dB 0? That's weird. Maybe 0 is the default? Wait, hang on. Hang on. I thought 1 was the default. Zero is the default. Okay, I guess that makes sense. That makes sense. Unlike physical audio equipment, 0 is also the default. All right, so let's go get rid of my Thinko here. Actually, we'll omit it because we're going to use the default. Sound manager. Default is 0. Sync manager. That's 0. And then let me just double check on the tank. Like, did I make that 1 because it's supposed to be 1, or did I make that 1 because, or 10? I made it 10 because that comes off of the shoot sound. Okay, cool. So we're good there. Okay, so this one is set. Manager. sound, sound ID, and the big sound. Hit sound. Okay. Now let's see if our three sounds won't come. That did not help at all. It's really weird though. So the first explosion seems good, and then it follows up with a bunch of weird explosions afterwards. I bet that has to do with inconsistent node path. Because listen to it again, there's like a little delay. I bet it's like working, and then it's rolling back past the boundary where the explosion was despawned. And that respawning is spawning it back with a different node path. How can we have an identifier? So identify a particular explosion that is consistent. Or maybe this is a problem with the spawn manager? Maybe the spawn manager should be ensuring that the next time that it's spawned, it's using the exact same node name? Let's chase that rabbit. Let's follow that rabbit hole. Let's see if the spawn manager can be changed to try and ensure that the node path is the same when it respawns a node. Okay, so the spawn record does appear to grab the name of the spawned node. Okay, I just thought of something too. Like, we can't fully ensure that the node path will be exactly the same because we can't ensure that the parent's name will be the same. Okay, but let's at least see if we can ensure that the spawn node itself will have the exact same name when spawned again. So we have this name, which can potentially be renamed here by this rename node, and could potentially be renamed here by the parent add child. But then the spawn record holds the name that was actually used. And then, where do we respawn things? I think that's here. Okay, here's where we're respawning. And we are setting the name. But then, it could potentially change there. So it seems like the spawn manager is making, a best effort. It's making a best effort to have the same name, but there's not really much we can do about this, can we? Because if there's a node in the way, parent add child will just automatically rename the node, and what the heck can we do there either? Well, okay, I guess I don't 100% know that this is the problem anyway. So first, let's verify that this is the problem. We will go to, I guess, sound manager, and let's just print out some identifiers. We'll print out an identifier every time one gets passed in. So shoot sound is all shoot sound 18. Explosion 1 sound 33. And then all of a sudden, we have these 5 frames where it increments. So what that leads me to believe What the heck is going on? So the fact that there's 5 of them is suspicious, right? Because we have it configured to always roll back 5 nodes. And so there's 5 of them. It's interesting here too that we have 6 of, or is that 5 or 6? That's 6 of these. So then what is that? The initial time we play it, and then the rollbacks, each of the rollbacks. So real play and then 5 rollbacks. And then what the heck happens here with this 42, 43, 44, 45? There's a bug somewhere. It's not necessarily in this code. It could be in the spawn manager again. It's always still explosion 1. And then it's as if a new explosion is happening on each of those frames. So when the spawn manager is spawning things, that happens during load state. So we're like reloading an explosion that should have been gone. What makes the explosions go away at the end? Interesting. Okay, so the way we have this set up is it plays through the whole animation and then it despawns itself. The despawning after the animation is finished thing, I don't like it. I don't like it. That makes me worry about determinism problems here. This is making me think that, like, I'm not sure. The animation finishing will finish, but what triggers its finishing? Okay, so our special network animation player advances the animation player in a rollback safe way. But what happens if we spawn it and immediately finish it? When does the finish signal get called? Okay, I'm just trying to orient myself here to decide what we should do. So there's another thing here too. So we got to just get rid of this code. This is bad. That's from old implementation. Let me just make sure these still have this on sound finished thing. We need to get rid of that. Hey Federico, thanks for coming to the stream. Sorry for that you're coming on during a point where I'm just quiet and thinking. It's a quiet thinking moment. Trying to figure out where to go next here. So that stale code is gone. Something else that occurs to me here too is this should probably remove itself from its parent. Because queue free is sort of problematic in that it happens on the next render frame, and we kind of want to have this thing be removed immediately. So let me just see if that helps. That's kind of reaching though, isn't it? Yeah, same deal. And it's the same thing where we get through what should be correct, And then suddenly at the end, it does this. I wonder. So in the sound manager, when the sound is finished playing, we remove it, which means that it can happen again, but maybe shouldn't happen again because we've already heard it. You know? So like imagine a really short sound, like a sound that's just super duper short, like 5 milliseconds. I don't know what a sound would be 5 milliseconds, but just for as a thought exercise. So we have, it happens on a frame, it plays, it's finished, we roll back, and then it will play again just because it was so short that it's already done. So maybe we don't want a current frame as part, maybe we don't want current frame as part of the identifier, but it's like a high watermark that we won't. Does that even make sense though? Sometimes netcode is mind-bending. It like literally bends your mind. Okay. Step A, before I start theorizing too much, we need to figure out what is actually happening here. What is happening that we have all of the normal things go, and then all of a sudden at the end, we get these extra 5 playthroughs. So how are we going to track this down? How are we going to figure out what's actually going on there? Let's start with the spawn manager. And I have all of these like print statements ready for me because like 90% of problems end up going back to the spawn manager. So the spawn manager will despawn things. It will respawn things. And let's see what we get here. Okay, so we despawn the bullet a bunch. And that's what, okay, so we're playing the sound and we're despawning the bullet. Playing the sound, despawning the bullet. Playing the sound, despawning the bullet. 5 times because we have the 5 debug rollback ticks. Now we have the explosion 3 is in existence. Okay, yeah, because that was the shoot sound, and then this is the explosion sound. So we despawn explosion 3, respawn the bullet. Okay, so this is where we're at the point where the bullet no longer exists, the explosion has been spawned, and we're rolling back before that, so we actually need to respawn that bullet before there. The explosion sound first created here. We have this tick number 5575, and then we get to here, and this is where things start to go wrong, because we're done with the 5575, which is where everything was going cool, we were good. And here we are respawning the explosion, playing the sound, respawning the explosion, playing the sound. I don't understand why we're respawning the explosion all of these times, because I feel like the explosion shouldn't even be getting respawned because it's like done. It's like done. And I think that comes back to this animation player. I feel like it's the animation player. What if instead of this animation player, we put a timer in here, a network timer, so it's just counting frames. It's not dealing with the animation player. at all as like a signal that we're done or not done. And then that's what we use to despawn the explosion. And we just make sure that so that sounded like a good idea, but now I'm thinking about something else. Okay, let me I'm thinking about another potential problem here. So okay, let's draw a new picture. So we have this explosion. The explosion is created, it gets to a certain point, and then it's deleted here. Now, this animation plays for a period of time. If we respawn, okay, we'll break this up into like ticks here. If we respawn the explosion exactly on its end, perhaps that's the problem. Okay, let's get some more debug information. About the animation player here. So network spawn isn't a good place to get that. We will need to add our network sync group here so that explosion will get a network process called. This is a special process function that's called by our rollback and prediction library. And what I want to know about is the animation player, its position in the animation. So that would be like current position. So this is going to tell us every network frame, the current position of the animation. And I guess I would kind of like to know what the frame is. Okay, so let's make this a little more complicated. So it'll tell us the current position on which tick, current tick. And then when it's finished, I would also like to know. It's also interesting too, is this animation finished? What is it using that for? Nothing, it looks like. Yeah, okay. I think these are both from the old implementation. Let's get rid of those. We're not using them. Let's simplify here. So let's say print animation finished. And I guess I would like to know what tick this is happening on also. And by the way, we're doing this with print statements because it's very difficult to debug something that happens over a series of frames using the line debugger, because you're just like pressing next forever, and it's just really hard to work with. Ooh, we're all up to 11:30. Jeez. Okay. Let's give this a shot and see what kind of information we get out of it. Only have a half hour to finish solving audio in rollback and prediction? Okay. Let's look at what we got here. So let's find our way to where things go wrong. So some drop crate spawns. Okay, so bullet, explosion sound 125 looks like the correct one. That's when everything's cool. And then at 134 is where things go wrong. So here's where we're kind of rolling backward and forward a bunch. This all seems okay, I think. We're playing from 125 through 133, and then on 134, the animation is finished. Then on 134, we're respawning the explosion, and then we replay a bunch of frames, and then it finishes. So it seems like the point at which we are respawning the explosion, like completely respawning it, so the current tick has moved past where the explosion doesn't exist anymore. We're completely respawning it. The animation player is catching up immediately and like finishing it, but we're still playing the sound, and the sound is being spawned anew on this new tick. I wonder if we just change the identifier to not include the tick, if that'll help us, but I worry that that has like a kind of race condition associated with it too. Let's just try and see what happens. If nothing else, it gives us more information on what the heck is going on here. Oh! Okay, so we're still getting a double. Yeah, I think the problem really is, okay, so network spawn. We are respawning the thing because it's been destroyed, it's over. And it's during network spawn that we are playing the sound. So if we spawn it on its last frame of existence, we play the sound even though we should already be done. Is this just like a state problem? Should we be saving and loading some state about this animation? Like we could have a piece of state that's like sound played, and then rather than playing immediately as respond, we play during network process, but only if that variable is false. Let's try that. Sound played false. And then we need to save and load this as part of our state. We can do save state and load state, which come from our rollback and prediction library. Stash that sound played in there. Load state. Void sound played. Okay. This is fine because the animation player itself saves and loads its own state. I guess we'll need to store the animation that we're playing somewhere, or can we get that from the animation player? I think we can, actually. So then, say var anim equals animation player, current animation, and of course we're going to say if not sound played, then we move this code in there, all of it. Oh, what? Okay, we don't have... We need to save some more of this spawn data, I guess. I can't call it scale because that's a property. All right, let's make like a... We'll just save the whole dictionary because we don't even know if this is going to work. We don't even know if this is going to work. Or actually, I didn't need to do that. Could have kept those names the same and just moved the assignment to the top. So data equals data. Okay, then this will work. And then I don't have to... We can even take this with us. I didn't even realize that I was listening to the tank engine sound that whole time. Still happening twice. Oh, you know what? We're never clearing the flag anyway. If not sound played, or setting the flag. So I have to say sound played equals true. All right, take two. Only one? Okay. So what was happening was we were spawning the explosion on its last frame of existence multiple times. I guess, okay, even if we went slightly before its last frame, yeah. Okay, so playing a sound during a network spawn equals bad, right? So we learned that. I also am not sure if this false is necessary here. Let's add that back. Let's see if adding the tick number itself is also just a bad idea. Okay, cool. I like that we can still add the tick number, and that's still a thing that works. How can we make this easier? Is everything that plays a sound when it is spawned going to need to have some kind of state? And if so, how can we make that easier for the developer? The way that we made the animation player easier for the developer is by having a special network animation player script that does the save state, load state stuff. Do we need some kind of sound player node to manage if we played our sound yet or not? And if we do make something like that, how can we make it fully generic? Maybe let's not worry about that at this point. Let's just keep going with doing these conversions, and then hopefully at some point as we're doing them, it'll become more obvious what kind of tools we would want to give developers to make this not be tedious every time a sound needs to be played. But otherwise, this seems more or less like it's working. The thing that's missing here is these are supposed to be positional audio. These are audio stream player 2Ds, or at least my special version of audio stream player 2Ds, because I have this special script as opposed to real audio stream player 2Ds. So we need to figure out how we're going to handle that. And I guess there's two questions there. There's the how to handle audio stream player 2Ds generally, and then there's how to handle the case where you have like a special one that you want to use because we are here. And this extends audio stream player? Like, how is it knowing what position it's supposed to be? Oh, it's getting it from its parent. So whatever its parent position is, that's how it determines its position. The clean says, then why does it repeat the sound, not create another sound? Why does repeated sound not create another sound? So in the first part, we're not despawning the explosion and respawning the explosion, right? Because it still exists. it's after it stops existing that we start having problems because we are going back and respawning it. And it's the respawning of it, if we go back and look at the explosion script here, where network spawn was the thing that was playing the sound. So we are respawning it even though we are going to destroy it a second later, because we're going to roll back forward destroying it. Even though we're going to destroy it a second later, we're playing the sound again. I think I sort of understand this now. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I can picture it in my head. I can picture in my head what I think is happening. We have a bunch of frames, and we'll not make these as long as they really would be. But let's say explosion happens here. It lives until here, where it despawns. And so throughout this whole part, we're cool. It's not double spawning the sound because we just spawned. Okay, it's not double spawning the sound because of the original protections that we put in there. So we're here. We roll back here. We create it. That's using our identifier to say like, okay, this is identified as being created on this frame, because we're always network spawning on the same frame when we're rolling back at this point. But then once we get past this line, we'll put another extra frame here. When we go, let's say, back to here, we are now spawning a brand new sound at this point, because the spawn manager says, oh, we've gone back into the point where this thing should exist, and it creates it. And so then if on this next frame we went back to here, so here it's creating it, and then we're rolling back forward to here, right? So it's creating it, rolling back forward. We're going to destroy it in a second. Actually, yeah, why is the thing I'm doing working? Because if we load the state, oh, no, okay. So if we load the state here, we're good, because over here on the first frame, we set the state to that we had already played. We set like that flag to true. Yeah, okay, no, I was, I almost got myself caught up in the why does this work trap, but I think I'm understanding it right. I don't know if I'm explaining it good, like at all, but I think I'm understanding it. It's making me think that maybe a sound manager, at least as the interface, is not the right tool here. Because this is a pain. Having to have a sound played flag that you're loading and saving as part of state for anything that plays a sound on spawn, because it's the on spawn thing that's really messing us up here, is going to need to do this same thing. Okay, so I'm going to delete all of our debug statements and get things cleaned up so that we can sort of move on. Let me know if you guys have any other thoughts or questions, or if my explanation was just so terrible that I should try again, because I'm happy to try again at explaining what I think is going on here. Let me just clean stuff up, and if no other questions come in, I will move on. Because all of these things that we are spawning here are supposed to be positional audio. And how are we going to handle that? So what time is it? Ooh, we got 15 minutes. Can we solve positional audio in 15 minutes? Probably not. But let's try. Let's see what we can do here. Let me just make sure all of our debug code is gone. I'm just going to launch it, practice, and see what shows up in the output tab. Still sounding fine. There is still some output here. I think that was in network animation player, or maybe actually that was in explosion. Yes, here it is. One last try. I think that is it though. Here, and I'll maybe even commit this, because it's doing something right. It's not doing it fully right, but it's doing something right. Take a look at the commit here. Oh, I guess some of my notes from last night about how to do this are in there. Yeah, the adding the current tick thing, that works great, except if you're in network spawn. Because network spawn could be on a different tick than you originally spawned on the first time, right? In network process, it's always going to be on the original tick because we're rolling back. But on network spawn, you know, we're not necessarily on the tick that we originally spawned on. We're just on a tick where we were supposed to have existed. You know? The current tick thing might be wrong. That might be a whole problem. But I'm just going to leave it there for now. This is a start. So that's what I'll say in the comment. Started attempting to solve duplicate sound effects. Yeah, we'll skip CI. Okay, so positional audio. We will need to call a different method. And there's two possible kind of situations with positional audio. One is we just want to play a thing in a spot. We want to play it and have it exist here. The other thing is we want to have it play and follow another node, which normally you'd be creating your audio stream player 2D, you'd attach it to the thing you want its position to follow, and you're done. Like, that's all you got to do. But we're going to need to handle both these cases, probably with separate methods. So let's go see how that might look. So we have play sound. We'll have play sound 2D, which is going to need to take most of the same methods. But additionally with like a global position. I'm sorry, I keep yawning. That's the worst on streams. I can't help it. I can't help it. I have small children. I don't sleep that good. Okay, so this would be, we'll say like start position, and then the rest will all be the same. I'll just copy and paste that. Almost the same. We need to change the return to audio stream player 2D. I'm already kind of thinking this isn't right, though. Or at least not right for how we need it in Retro Tank Party, because we're using our own special kind of thing. All right, let's pretend we don't have a special thing. We want to try and share some code here, if we can. I'm not sure how we can, though. I guess we could have an add audio player functions, like add player. We take the player and we do, even call it node so we can keep doing this stuff. And then we'll do this. Oh, and I guess we need to return it. Or no, we don't need to return it because we already have it. Yeah, okay. Add player. So then this isn't that bad as far as copy and paste jobs go. Audio stream player 2D. Although actually, we don't need to pass in the start position. We can set that afterwards. We can set that when we get it back. Maybe that's how we'll do the following too. This I guess needs to be in here. On the volume and all this stuff. So many things. Okay, there's less things we can avoid copying and pasting than I had hoped. And then this doesn't have the identifier, so we need the identifier. You know, last stream was such an amazing stream. And I mean, us not succeeding in doing a thing doesn't make the stream bad necessarily, but it felt so good to like set out to do a thing and like totally accomplish it. Whereas now it's like kind of a downer that, you know, we made some progress. You know, we're making progress, but you know, it's not fully solving the problem the way we did last time, which just felt so good. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what if, yeah, we can't pass in a type name. We could pass in the node. I don't know. I don't think there's a way to abstract this any more than we have. At least not that involves less code. Okay, so play sound 2D. Sound 2D gives us back the audio stream player 2D, which we can't do anything with, right? Crap. Or no, we can. Okay, so the reason I was saying we can't do anything with is because this is a node, and it's a node 2D, but that just means that its position will always be global, which I guess is fine. That's fine. So its position will be global. And then we just need to manually update its position somehow. This gets us into like life cycle problems again too, though. So let's say we have a play sound 2D that creates our audio stream player 2D, and then we stash that on our object. Now our object is destroyed for whatever reason. It's a tank, it's blown up, or it's an explosion, it goes away. Now we respawn it. We will need to have, or no, okay, I was thinking we would need to recreate it again, but we actually don't, because the old one should continue to exist. I guess we may need to update it. Okay, what another situation? So we've so far been dealing with situations where we roll back, respawn a thing, and then roll forward and despawn it. But what if we roll forward and we need to keep it alive? Because something has changed from the new input we got. So now it's not going to get destroyed in 2 seconds. It's going to, or it's not going to get destroyed in 33 milliseconds. It's going to keep living. So then we do need to get the object somehow. Ugh. A sound manager is starting to feel like not the right solution. It's really starting to feel like not the right solution. It's okay. A node that exists on the thing does kind of feel like it's the right abstraction because it can maintain its own state. It can It will always exist. It will always be created, but it just might not do anything. You know, if it's already played, if it's already come back to that state. We just need whatever sound it's playing to not stop when the thing is destroyed. Right? Does that make sense? Like, imagine instead of having an audio player thing, an audio or okay, maybe the sound manager still exists, but we don't directly interact with it. Instead of directly interacting with it, we have, you know, these nodes here. And we tell it to play. That talks to the sound manager and says, go play your thing. And then when this explosion is destroyed, despawned, it goes away, but the sound keeps playing. If we respawn the explosion, this node is recreated, but it has the state of the already playing, already existing sound. Right? Does that make sense? Would that work? We just kind of have like a real node that's managed by the sound manager that's playing the actual sound, but the developer interacts with this sort of like proxy node, and the proxy node gets some of its state from the real sound manager node, but it's also communicating back to that node information like my current 2D position, right? For an audio stream player 2D, it's sending that back to the real node that exists on the sound manager. And that proxy node would have the advantage of being able to like save load state like we had this, you know, wed into our explosion here, without the developer needing to care about that. The developer would just need to say like, if already playing, or if not already playing, play. Or maybe even the play method on this proxy node would just not play if it's already playing. Which maybe is fine. Oh my gosh, this is just twisting my brain up. I'm gonna go look in chat. Anyone have any ideas here? Any comments on my wacky brainstorm here? I just don't know. This is a much harder problem than I think I gave it credit for when I was thinking over it last night. I mean, I had a vague idea of how we could tackle it, and now I'm just really unsure. I'm really unsure about the whole interfacing with a sound manager thing and how that's going to work with, you know, the 2D audio and this like extra bit of state that we need to manage to prevent the double playing. The one thing I worry about too, though, is my proxy node idea is, so we say, okay, so we say we told that node to play. It's playing. At some point, it's going to shift back to stopped. Like it's going to finish playing what it had played, and it's going to stop. And then if we tell it to play again, it will actually play again when we don't necessarily want it to. So maybe once we say play, like it just stays stuck in played. But what about what about you know, a case where you don't want that to be the case? You want to play something multiple times. I'm really sorry, folks. Sitting there listening to me think through ideas is probably not a very good stream. This proxy node idea seems interesting. I think I'll probably experiment with that a bunch between this stream and the next stream. Although maybe I'll even chase down what we've started already for a little while, because it could be possible that this could just work. This play sound 2D as like the 2D idea that now you have this thing and you're just like manually updating its position, and that would work. It feels kind of sketchy. I guess, okay, so every time we call it, maybe we're going to be calling to play the sound, but maybe we don't actually want it to play. We just want to get it. We want to get an existing sound. I think we've raised more questions than we've answered today. We've found more problems, raised more questions. I mean, I'm happy we got a thing sort of working. I just don't know if this is the right solution, the right long-term solution, especially as an API that's going to be part of a library that we're going to put in the Godot asset store. I think this just needs. I'm gonna need to keep. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep chasing down this play sound 2D as a possible solution. I'm gonna experiment with that proxy node idea as a possible solution. I'm gonna convert more stuff, and hopefully during that mess of things, like the right API, the right approach will start to make itself apparent. I wish we would have found that approach together on stream. But this thing just needs more than the 2 hours that I allot for my Friday stream. So I guess that's to say, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for putting up with this very exploratory, very experimental stream where we're just trying to figure out how even to do this, how even to do sound in a rollback and prediction, or specifically sound effects in a rollback and prediction context, because music, I guess, I think is fine. I don't think there's any challenges for music, but like gameplay sound effects, man, this is an interesting problem. It may be that we end up needing like 2 or 3 or 4 different APIs to handle all of the different like possible things that you want to happen for different sounds. Like maybe for some sounds you're using one technique, for other sounds you're using another technique, and more experimenting, more exploration. I think that's what's needed. And so, yeah. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. And, I will update on my progress on the Discord. So come hang out there. And otherwise, I will see everybody next week. Take care. Bye-bye.